right, ladies and gentlemen, our next session is amply titled Intelligence Squared, and joining us on stage is this session's moderator, Ms. Maryam Al-Maheri, Associate Project Manager from the Dubai Future Foundation, and we will welcome back to the stage artist Yeiru and Rafiq Anadul. Please give them a thunderous round of applause.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming. This is very, very exciting. I watched both of your presentations, so I'm excited to learn more and to have the audience hear more about your work. I think we'll kick it off with, since we've already introduced ourselves, I think we'll kick it off with the first question, which is the age-old question we've heard, which is AI going to replace us? Cliché, I know, but we have to start with it. So, Rafiq, maybe I'll start with you and then Yeiru over to you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a replacement, but I think we will definitely see a remarkable advances in the neuroscientific context. It's pretty clear that machines do not forget. And it's very powerful, I think, imagination that instead of replacing us with something else, I think they will be a part of our life in a more and more. And I'm very optimist. I think we are smart human beings, and we will just be more protect our future and our past. But I do believe we will see any remarkable advancements in the everyday caregivers to not only creative part, but I think practically better human-machine interaction will be there.
Yeah.
Can I?
For me, for the first, I think we need to distinguish the strong AI and the weak AI because it's very confusing. So from the answer for the strong AI, the answer will be no, because the intelligence and the desire to dominate or replace humans is totally different. And desire for the aggression is just some hormone thing or testosterone thing, so that's why. And for the weak AI, the answer is also no, because AI just took a place for some labor or work, and we, in the future, near future, we will just not working and just waiting the money come to the here, yeah. But it's a very policy thing, so yeah.
No, that's helpful to know because, we've had these conversations a lot, I think, with the work that obviously you do, but also the work we do at the Dubai Future Foundation. And we like to say no, but I think that there is this kind of misconception from, let's say, the general public. Sometimes when you watch movies or, or hear about AI, let's say, gone wrong, where it's, you do wonder, is this something that is going to replace me? Is automation going to take away our jobs? But maybe because you do work with AI, and if I can ask, a lot of the time we've seen AI used for kind of things like operational efficiency, right? And for example, in the energy sector or the transportation sector. But you both use AI quite interestingly, and in a way that I don't think we always think about. We don't think about kind of machine learning or AI, or any of this kind of algorithm use with creativity. So can I ask, maybe both of you can talk about kind of the way you do actually use AI in your work? Again, if I can.
For me, it was very honestly natural connection because I started using computers while I was 8 years old, and I started creating experience with the machine. And 2008, it was my first time touching a software and a hardware and seeing how the patterns of invisible, sense of space becomes a material. Very early, pure data was a software. I remember, but I think any sci-fi lover always imagines that you want machines to become your friend. You want machines to understand you, talk with them, share with them. And so it's not a very weird feeling if you just think like that. But as a creator, being able to imagine together with a machine, that is, I think, to me, was very unexpectedly beautiful. Like, I remember when I trained my first AI 5 years ago, like, when the first results comes from it, it was so inspiring. It was just like finding a new form, finding a new sculpture. So that motivation, like I kept it in my really hard. Like I couldn't forget that moment. And honestly, I think for many people who are using AI creatively, I believe they are having a similar serendipitic, communication with the machine. So from that perspective, I think many creators are truly enjoying the beautiful unknown that just we don't know what it is yet still.
Sorry, can I ask a follow-up question? From a technical standpoint, this is my own curiosity, how do you actually use it in your work?
Yes, so technically, I'm personally in love with GAN algorithms. I was at Google 2016 as an art resident, and that was the year Ian was English Fellow Studies at Google. Now I think it's in Apple. But that year, they released a Deep Dream, one of the most first inception model. And many artists like me, people super inspired, what is this form? Is it like a real? Does it look like some animals and so on? So that was the year I was super interested in the GAN algorithms and also the image classification algorithms specifically, which can, let's say we have 10 million images or 100 million of images, finding and curating the data, and then imagine we have, let's say, 2 million something that is about that concept, and then imagine this 2 million in a form that is not on a classical order of bits and bytes, but in a way that AI finds meaning and connects them, which is called, TSNE back in time, now UMAP algorithms. These are lower dimension reduction, PCA algorithms that are mostly used for classifying big data. But what is amazing is how the AI see the same universe and clusters it and eventually becomes a sculpture. That was, but these two things is my really two inspiration when I work with AI. And again, deeply grateful for NVIDIA, one of our collectors and supporters of our studio. We are a pioneer in the hardware and also software communication. We use, now we have two AI supercomputers, for example, in the studio, the DGX stations, which allows you to train neural networks with remarkable data. For example, you have 10 million nature images. You can put them in this massive GPU VRAMs, and you can train StyleGAN algorithms 2, 288, 3, whatever. They're all on GitHub, by the way. If you're interested, these are all on GitHub. You can download and somehow use it. So yeah, GAN algorithms and the PCA, lower dimension reduction, these are my two hero inspiring research for me and the Ford Studio.
Thank you.
Okay, and so since AI world is very vague, so I just want to clarify what the tasks is using recently as the first. So when it comes to AI, there's a strong AI and a narrow AI. And for the narrow AI, what we use recently is about deep learning. So for deep learning, there's many tasks. As Rafik said, there can be summarized information, and it can be used, for example, image search. You can find your favorite bag, put the image, and find in the e-commerce that is summarized. And also can be used as generate. What their generation, generate some portrait, for example. And the third is about recognition, and you can think about the self-driving car. So that is. The essential part is that gives the eye to the machine. And so in my work, I'm not an artist, I'm an AI engineer. So I have many projects aside AI painting. And what I used recently is about using the AI recognition skills to find the Nazca lines. But does everyone know the Nazca lines? Maybe no or yes, I'm not sure, but let me try to explain. So in the Peru, in the Nazca, there's a really big painting on the ground, and when you ride the plane, you can see that painting, and it's called Nazca geographies. And I work with an archaeologist and to input his domain knowledge to the AI recognition and to find the new geography on the ground. And why is that important is there's many construction works there and destroy the geography. And at this case, what is interesting is AI can accelerate or enlarge the human cognitive skill. So the essence of the AI bring us is use less power to do more about cognitive skills. That's, I think, the essential part and affect our works.
I think both of these are really interesting because they're very, very technical, right? I mean, and I think I wonder if how technical the audience is. I realize we went straight into it. But why it's very, very fascinating is because obviously and this is my own kind of ignorance, but when you think about art, it's something very visual that you see, you can touch, you can kind of engage with. But a lot of the time you think about very traditional forms of this, like, paintings or sculptures, right? Do you feel like because you're doing this kind of new form of art or kind of work that you're doing, are we changing the way we think about art? Or what we even define or view as art?
I think it's definitely happening. First of all, I think my personal most inspiring experience was with MoMA. So like recently, we were able to collaborate with Paolo Antonelli, Michel Coe, like two inspiring curators from MoMA, and Casey Rias. So Casey Rias is my mentor, and also he is the person who invented software called Processing, which is the very first Java object-based language that any creator can create design, objects, art, data. Like, it's an incredible software. Processing, you are very welcome to look. Now we have P5GS and so on. But he's a very amazing mentor that also opened this new speculation about data like 10 years ago. And working with them, to me, was one of those exciting things. First of all, imagining with technology requires more and more collaboration to me. I think technology means multiple aspects of knowledge and experience. If you only think that an AI and a human, I think it just sounds exciting, but I don't think it's honestly what it is, right? We have hardware, we have software, we have curation. I think any AI project totally based on a curation process. There is no, I think, creator in the world can create something meaningful with these tools without curation. So what I learned in that research and exciting production is curation is just fundamentally everything about AI and human. The question is how much everyone will have enough time in the future to curate their life, their desires, their object, because the systems are creating based on who we are, right? Like, I mean, what we see, what we eat, where we go, what we watch, I mean, pretty much defined by a bunch of algorithms. And I really love the power of curation when it's about AI.
And you mentioned curation because, I mean, obviously this is a role, right, in the kind of the art world, the curator. So are we going to be losing the curator to the algorithm?
I mean, it's really interesting because, for example, when you have 10 million nature images, like the Coral project, we were trying to create an AI that is learning about the underwater universe. But we found a lot of scuba divers, and they're always in the beautiful images. But the idea was creating an experience that is no scuba divers, no human, it's just what we see. And I mean, that is a machine collaboration to find those images, clean them, and reconstruct the data set. So, but this idea comes from humans, so I hope AI doesn't think like this soon, but I don't know, it can be curation, it's a super inspiring process.
Yeah, very interesting.
I think from the fixed story, I can expand the discussion. So the AI art, the essence for the AI art is disappear of the creator. For example, as I said about finding a Nazca line, so who will the person find that new Nazca line? Since maybe it's a person who creates the algorithm for the recognition, or the person who collected the Nazca line training data, or maybe the professor who input the image in, or me just pushes the enter button. And so when we had the press release about new finding, just a discussion about who will be the a finder for the Nazca line. So I think that also happened to the art field. And so for AI art, people, first, a human role is to collecting data and cleaning the data. And after the generation of the art, and to curate what is good or not. So the artist will be the curator.
Yes.
So that is what happened in the AI field. And for example, you gathering the Picasso's painting and generate new paints. So is a Picasso the creator or you are the creator? It's very vague. So the boundary between the creator and curator will disappear in the future. So that's the essence of the AI, what I think. Yeah.
And this part is super inspiring, right? Like, I think it's literally creating a thinking brush, I think.
Yeah.
And that brush is not like conventionally, traditionally, human brain to like physical objectification of an idea. The same concept, but with this time machines' potentials through these algorithms. It's just super similar, but also very unexpected. It's just, it's very interesting.
Can I ask them, because we are talking about algorithms, and you mentioned training, and you're talking about how obviously humans are the ones developing the algorithms. Again, this is a bit of a cliche topic, but I think it's a very important topic, which is the algorithm bias, right? I mean, I know we hear this more again in things like HR, for example, or lending. You worry about algorithm making a decision for you. But in the creative field, do you also worry about this bias? Because you're absolutely right that there's all this data that's being collected and then generated into something. Are you worried that you might create an art, or I don't know if it's you or the algorithm creating an artwork that is, I don't know, problematic, or,
It's a very important topic, I think. So what we are doing in the studio, fundamentally, never use personal data. Second, always try to detach ego from data.
Sorry, the personal data here is your personal data or anybody's?
Anyone. I mean, I'm personally, I'm okay to like give my all, like for a team to like research.
Open source.
Yeah.
It's out there.
But never ever someone else's data that without asking or permission. But in general, we only look at the collective memories, which are hopefully everyone in the world can be a part of it. Like the nature, the space, the urban, things that are not one person experience, but collective experience. And for any AI research, we are doing our very best to never show what is real, meaning we never show the original data. We only show what AI is creating. And that, I think, cleans the ethical problems and opens up the new questions. Is like, what is real? Like, those images are like, I mean, there's a very much inspiring other question, but that makes things ethically much clean and, so very honest and direct.
Yeah. Privacy problem is really hard thing. So, and for the bias of data, there's I think the two things. One is the privacy, and another is the bias itself. So, where the bias come from? It's not come from the AI side, but it's come from the data. What a human puts the data for AI to learning. And but the data is corrected by the human, so human buyers will invent it the data. And the critical level, there's a critical level for these buyers. For example, in the healthcare, the data bias will make a really severe situation that will kill people. But for the art context, it's a little bit low because it cannot kill the person. But actually, the problem is very serious about the art, because if once you learn the data that say this is what a good art, so who decides a good art? So the majority decides this is a good art. And when AI learns a good art, some good art, and to show the people, it will be the reinforcement loop feedback that everyone think this is good art and towards the same direction. So this is what I call overfitting in the machine learning. And so since the art is very cultural things, and the culture is actually, we are mind creature, so it will affect mind so much. So we really need to pay attention to what kind of data we collect and make it learn for the AI, especially even the art context. It's very important to learn.
And I think you just use a great term, overfitting and mod collapse. Like, these are very well-known problems of AI. For example, like, you can have one of the best data in the world. Like, for example, recently we are working with Antoni Gaudi's amazing archives in Barcelona, in Casa Batlló building. So we got these amazing, like, 9 million images of the Gaudi's building. But the problem is, people, touristically, going to the same location, taking the same facade from the same part. So we have hundreds of thousands of Casa Batlló facade, but they are the same. So when you train an AI with the same perspective, which I think it's a human problem than AI problem, nobody like want to go left or right or like make, you know, like the creativity is reflecting in AI, like mode collapse or like, you know, overfitting problems. It's just so inspiring, the mimicking the reality. Like the other thing is very inspiring is an unbiased process. Now artists or creators can define how much AI should learn. Intentionally, can it be more realistic? Can it be less realistic? Like in MoMA project, again, ethically, we never want to replicate those 200,000 artists' work. We will intentionally create a creative output than creating a Monet or like Van Gogh or so on. So that was also much challenging, like how to make AI to intentionally abstract the reality. So they're very interesting challenges.
Yeah, but this is actually really interesting because I hadn't thought about this kind of from this perspective that you obviously you're taking kind of one image over and over. But you know, you also mentioned that this idea that good art, let's say, or is then kind of defined, you know, let's say one or two pictures like Van Gogh or Monet are considered good art. But then maybe we're only focusing on those kind of artists, right? And then that sort of kind of replicates itself, and we're then in a way alienating or dismissing a huge other group of artists that, let's say, haven't fit in this. Do you have anything to say on that? I mean, is there you kind of mentioned it with the work that you're doing now, but is there something that you're thinking about in that respect to kind of, I guess, deal with potentially focusing on one style of art because it's replicated?
Actually, that's a great point because in MoMA archives, there's an amazing variety. Like there's Pac-Man, there's Mario, there's like, you know, Namjoon Paik, like there is Monet. Like it's a remarkably rich styles of different art for 150 years or maybe more. So that was really interesting because, again, StyleGAN2 ADA is one of the latest algorithms that can mimic any style that it can learn. But we still want to like go beyond what is a perfect AI can do. That part was really challenging. That part was honestly more challenging than letting AI to learn and get something exciting.
And sorry to cut you off, but I was just thinking because sometimes with museums, there's this criticism that a lot of the art is very Western, and there's also this argument that a lot of the AI we use is created by the West. So I wonder, I mean, how we can deal with that again from a bias perspective. I don't know. I mean, both of you are.
I think that mathematically, I guess, the best, the numbers.
Yes, the science of it.
So maybe I can give us a little bit insight about what I do in the company. So, for example, we don't think about art, just think about some numeric data. So for HR things, hiring people, and you know the profile, gender, or the age. So, and usually the gender will be the bias, or age will be the bias sometimes. And so what's the activity to correct the bias is explicitly define which data have the bias. It's not exclude that data, but include that data and explicitly define what the bias, for example, in the gender. So that can correct the bias in the result of the AI algorithm. And that is, I think, the one way. So that means we really need the humanity, like how you can find the bias existing in our society.
Interesting. Yeah. This has been very, very interesting for me, and this is just, again, a personal curiosity. I know that you said you're an engineer, so I mean, I guess this is work that you've been doing for a while, but how did you both start doing this, if I can ask?
I mean, 2008, when I was first time exposed to programming language.
And that was, I mean, why did you start with programming?
Oh, it was a class, like a class. And actually, Koray Tahiroğlu, he's one of the, right now in Helsinki, and Aalto University, he was just coming with excitement, this tool. And in his class, I was 3 students. Like nobody get the class. I was, and one from computer science and one from master class. But it was so inspiring because he was teaching how to program a computer to make music and interaction. To me, it was really fun to see how a machine can become this, instrument. That was how I learned. And then second, a year later, learn about the VVVV, which is a visual programming language that is anyone can, it's free, you can download, and it's just basically creating blocks of algorithms and functions that doesn't need any like a language of, anything, but just so fun for the brain. Like there was something that, I don't know, something very playful, like a game to imagine with those algorithms. But the AI, of course, is more Python, and it's much more like frameworks, and it's a more serious journey. But I'm grateful for Casey Rias again at UCLA, processing class. One of the best, simple but artful teaching of coding. It was beautiful. Like that 2012, I started using Java, and then
And were you studying art at the time, or?
Yes, it was a media arts department, and many pioneers in the field that are showing, master students, grad students, how to practice their field much better. But I'm grateful for that class.
Yeah, no, very interesting.
So the reason why I started the project is, actually, I watched your video, and you talk about Blade Runner. So also, the Blade Runner gave me a really big inspiration. I actually see the design. His design is really good. And after I watched that, I think I need to implement some future products. But for me, there's another reason why doing the AI. The big purpose is I don't want to work. And I just imagine, so if I born in the 100 years later, at that era, no one are working or for the labor.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah, and everyone just sitting the couch, and the money is come, delivery. So, but the very unfortunate things is for all of us here is we already exist here and cannot live long enough for that era. So that's why I started the idea that can I make some engine that can make creativity itself and solve the very difficult problem. And so that's why I started the AI painting project. So actually it's an art form, but it can be not specific, domain-specific problem. I want to make a more general, some engine that solves the many difficult cognitive problems. So that's why I'm doing the project.
Very interesting. You mentioned earlier as well, you were talking about NFTs, and we were talking about blockchain earlier in the, in the lounge. I think it's still something we haven't quite grasped or haven't quite understood. On NFTs, do you feel like that, again, a random question, but do you feel like that's kind of the future of art? Are we opening it up in this way?
I think NFTs are, as a form of sharing, it may be one of the future of sharing and collecting. I don't believe the art itself is the form. It is just a technique of sharing, collecting. I think that part, I feel like it is, because very openly, I think during the pandemic, while the world was collapsing and physically, we saw a rise of a virtual space, right? People undervalued, people never explored their work before. I mean, all people come together around this, campfire, right? They were NFTs. To me, it is a form of imagination that blockchain can host it. Of course, smart contracts where NFT survives is still a very complex topic. I don't think everyone really understands quickly how the smart contract may work, what is allowed for creators or collectors, what happens to metadata, how long will survive, which blockchain, proof of stake, proof of work, economical and nature impact. There's a lot around NFTs. But as a form of sharing, I do believe for at least a decade, we will be seeing an enormous experiments around NFTs.
About NFT, right? So the one thing I can say, so people here, please buy some NFT, and that will be.
Does anyone have
pricing.
NFTs here?
Sure.
Any NFT collectors here?
Oh, there.
1, 2. Okay, 3 NFT collectors.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
It's
audience
not
is...
enough,
Yeah.
The reason for the NFT is really the big things for the next stage, because now we are in the next generation will be the metaverse. So NFT is really the key for the metaverse, as you know. Since before the NFT, in the internet, every image can be copying, so there's no value for each artwork. But now, because NFT exists, each digital data can be the art, and that is really can bring the critical change. So it means there's a really new capitalism market in the digital. So that will be a big change. So and now, yeah, just purchase something, maybe to fix the artwork. Yeah.
You mentioned the market, and if I can actually come to that, because I think that's quite interesting about blockchain, the decentralized kind of aspect of it. And what I've heard from a number of artists, because we were looking at tokenization kind of in the work that I do, is that it's helpful because it could also add to this kind of crowdfunding mechanism for income and also to raise investment. Do you think that is a part of it?
Of course. 100% sure. I think honestly, many creators in the field, artists, designer, who whatever your background is, many of them having their own renaissance, because I think, I don't know how to say it, but in Art Basel Miami, I felt it very openly, because there's a traditional art world that is based on centuries or like from the Medici's or whatever, like that universe is there, and then pandemic, and a new universe opens up here. And I think eventually they will be merging, but I don't know how quick will it be, or will they be separated like, different bubbles, or like will they collide intentionally? But the good news at the Basel Miami I saw is when traditional physical world and the virtual space connects, that doesn't matter whatever the technology is.
Do you think, as you mentioned, Art Basel in Miami, do you think that art fairs will become obsolete?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, I think physical world is not going anywhere. I think physical world will be actually more valuable.
Okay.
I feel like.
That's a good answer. I like it.
To be honest, I love AR, VR, XR, and I'm practicing in all this, and respectfully amazing. But I can't fool myself like wearing a VR and AR or like all machine augmentation in life feels machine augmented world, but in a physical environment, on a museum exhibitions or fairs, it's different. It's just physical world is, I don't think, it will take so much time to retain a quality experience, will take time, and in the meantime, I think we will appreciate physical world as much as possible.
Yeah. I think that's a resolution problem, because
Yes.
if it's high enough, but now if there's matrix things, I think that's the same, the reality and the digital is the same, but now it's not like that, so that's why the physical things give us a really big something feeling, and we really love the physical things, right?
On this kind of aspect of decentralization and this kind of aspect of technology, one of the things that we've also been thinking about here specifically, because I come from a regulatory background, is around ownership. And is there any worry in either of your work about whether you actually own the work, or is this, I mean, you mentioned kind of the open source aspect of it, but I wondered as well.
So great point, because I think in NFT space we are seeing this. Like the big question is right now, like who is truly behind that NFT, right? So we are seeing that people are, getting someone else's image, like putting a name on it, and assuming you're, like even happened to me, like 2 weeks ago, we make a project called Synthetic Dreams, 1,000 unique quantum string artworks. We minted real time on Ethereum. In just 5 minutes, someone just downloaded in OpenSea, a website, open a fake account in 5 minutes, and people were just rushing and trying to, they bought some random people. It's very much, unfortunately, in any technology, it is a problem. But I think eventually, I know that some companies are working on like even using computer cameras for, using blockchain to authenticate the reality, like deepfake problem we saw. Like I think they will eventually become a part of all this challenge. And what is real and who owns that part of like data, and how we can be sure that the creator of that piece is the person behind that NFT or other digital things. I think it's a very nice common problem. But we see verifications, we see like some sort of, personally when I use any information from social media, I have the verification of my account, verification of the NFT, verification of the email, like verification of the Discord, like make all ecosystem fully verifications to create a safe audience experience. That's one way of doing it.
Okay, you can opt out.
Yeah, it's okay.
Maybe before I conclude with the last question, one question before that. On this, I mean, you mentioned the verification angle of it. If I can, do you think there's a role for regulation in this? I mean, is this something that we should be regulating as a space, or is this something we leave kind of organically to regulate itself? Again, this is my own kind of curiosity.
I think it's government's challenge first, but since I think blockchain means decentralized imagination, it's also everyone's responsibility. So who is governing something decentralized is a great question, and exactly a beautiful challenge we are going to see.
To figure out after this panel.
About I think the blockchains have actually the same problem issue in this, and this will be the really big challenge because in the future, now we have the boundary of the country, but in the future, the boundary of the country will disappear. At that era, the blockchain technology is very important, and but towards that phase, there still are many steps so that we can maybe discuss further.
Yeah.
By the way, this is so cool. You don't see it, but inside of the LED screen is so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I just took it.
Yeah.
I didn't see that before. No, it's actually quite pretty. It's an exhibition in itself. Okay, when we're done, you need to come check it out. Last question. What are you excited about in this field? What do you think the next 10, 20 years are going to be, even 100 years? Because I think you're going to live that long. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, my biggest excitement is public art, like how to create public art anywhere in the world, unlocking the mathematical beauty that clicks and explored by anyone in the world. Like, what kind of what kind of an algorithm that can be truly feel connected with any human in the world, that just finding that language. And secondly, mental health. I'm very much inspired and also hopeful that near future art experiences will be also great for anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia. I want to be more functional for humanity in the next 10 to 20 years. I would love to learn and explore and be a solution for some problems.
So, and what I believe is, as you mentioned, so the technology, especially AI, can connect all of us. And for now, there's many misunderstandings between the people. And the reason, because we don't have enough time to learn more. The reason for that is because in each of our tasks, there's two things. One is the intent, and another is execution. So, but we took so much time on the execution. And AI can solve it because AI is just like bring us the ability to execute that is very hard only for the human. So if we have more time for the intent, so we can think more about other people and think about not that win or lose paradigm, but think about what we can do as a group, as a one, to solve the important issue. And also one thing, as I said, the AI has the ability to summarize. So what important things is, in the world, there's so many difficult problems, and we don't have enough time to understand. But AI can summarize many difficult questions to make it more easy or visible. So that's what AI can do. So I really hope in the near future, AI can help us to more unite.
Thank you. And that's very nice. I like that we ended on the kind of the human element, although we've been talking about technology for the past half hour. But thank you both so much for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
for being here physically.
Of course.
And thank you to the audience for listening as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.